In 2021, as we mark the 50th year of Bangladesh's independence, it is widely acknowledged that Bangladesh is now an example for many countries in overall poverty reduction, child mortality rates, as well as longevity and economic progress all around. Bangladesh, how did it achieve all of that in being a rather young country? Especially in the last decade or so, Bangladesh has made great strides. As a matter of fact, in per capita GDP, we have now left even India behind. This is absolutely an incredible achievement. So now, as most of you know, after independence in 71, Bangladesh was mostly an agrarian economy. But now, manufacturing and services sector is by far the largest segment of the GDP, with the agriculture sector an ever shrinking number. So now, the people that are behind this amazing success story are the RMG sector people, where everyone knows Bangladesh is the second largest RMG exporter in the world. But alongside, many other manufacturing enterprises are taking a hold of the Bangladeshi economic landscape. And alongside, the services sector is also booming. One such individual that I would like to introduce to you today, who has his hands in media, RMG, as well as in manufacturing and assembling of mobile phones. He employs, his organization across the board employs tens of thousands of employees, and he is a young entrepreneur from Bangladesh. So it is a great pleasure to introduce to you Salauddin Chy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to such a prestigious program, dear Hakim Bhai.
We're going to be talking about the COVID-19 related challenges that the SME sector in Bangladesh faces. So Salauddin, I'll dive right into our questions. What do you see as the opportunities in the SME sector in Bangladesh? Over to you, Salauddin.
So I have been working for SME sector since the pandemic, began. I got the opportunity to work with FBCCI president, honorable president, just past president, with some business communities, young business people. So I'm very lucky enough to work for them, So at the beginning of the pandemic, when COVID-19 started, especially in our country, March, at the beginning of March of 2020, so we saw, lots of shops, restaurants all over the, small business people got affected very much,
Right.
They had down the restaurants, their shops, they don't have actually much profit. They just run to, make their livelihoods. So they had to struggle, especially still they are struggling, So what we did, we tried to put pressure, on central bank, so that they can support them. Banks are the main, in our country, if we think about money, we have to think about the banks, So what we did, our honorable FBCCI president, Sheikh Fazle Fahim was there with us, We raised some demands, to give them quick support, quick cash supports, to the SME sectors so that they can survive. But unfortunately, some of the SME, our honorable Prime Minister in the meantime, she announced stimulus package, for SME sector and all other sectors in my sector, also RMG sector. But unfortunately, the SME guys, they didn't get much, they didn't get the stimulus, from the funds, the Bangladesh Bank created, because the bank were saying, they didn't have the proper documentations. It was the problem, So in the meantime, many of the SME guys, many of the restaurant owners, shopkeepers, and many of them were, were bankrupted. They didn't get any support from the banks. They didn't get any support from the government, even the business communities. So it was too difficult for them to, survive at that moment. Some of them, just a few of them got support from the fund, but still the fund is still there. Even now they are asking again about the stimulus, because it's high time, for them to survive. So what we did, we tried to put pressure. We talked on the media about them. Media was very helpful. They picturized the scenario of the SME guys, who are suffering badly. We have huge population, almost 18 crore people are there in Bangladesh, and we SME sector is, most of the guys are highly dependent on the SME sector, We always talk about garment sector. You are talking about a mobile sector, but unfortunately, nobody was there, to support them. So they are still suffering. And I think you have seen an article of news few days before on media, almost 2 crore and 50 lakh people have become poor newly during the pandemic. So we guess, because of the, non-cooperation to the SME sector, it created.
I can totally understand what you're saying. The pandemic is a worldwide problem. Bangladesh is not the only country, as you know, that has been affected by this. It's been all over. And the ones that got affected the most, like you pointed out, are the small businesses, mostly small and medium businesses. And especially for a country like Bangladesh, where more than 80% of employment comes from the informal sector. The street vendors and the small shopkeepers and what have you, they got affected really, really bad. And now that we're in the second wave, I'm afraid that, something needs to be done in terms of the funds moving to the right people. You're absolutely right. In that, Salauddin. So I'm glad that you're working with, and I know you're very active with the trade bodies of BGMEA, FDCTI, and I must also mention that you also happen to be a director of Bangladesh-Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry as well. So I know that you're very active in the trade scene, as well as you do a lot of philanthropic work as well. You're involved in a lot of charities. You do a lot of good work. I'm aware of that, Salauddin. So since we are talking about this COVID-19 and what ought to be done, I'm going to step back a little bit, because last year, as we know, the government was very prompt to announce many of these financing schemes to help out industry in general. But small and medium enterprises did not really get the funds that they were looking for. Any changes do you think is going to happen this year?
SME Foundation, there is SME Foundation. They just announced few days before they will provide some supports to the SME people who are badly affected, and our Honorable Prime Minister, she's always there to support them. The problem is the banks are saying, as I told you, they have lack of documentations. So if they provide them bank loans, that would be, very risky for them. So what I can suggest, SME, not only through the bank, for example, SME Foundation, they are providing the loans to them. Also, there should be other, if we business organizations, they can support them. The government can give them funds to the business organizations to support the SME guys. Also, because of the lack of documentation, in terms of documentations, the government can give them supports to have some documents. Even most of them, I know, they don't have even trade licenses.
Right.
In our country, there are lots of bureaucratic problems still there. Government is trying to resolve the problems. So what the government can do, the government can support them with some documentations, quick documentation. They can give concerned ministries to support them with the documentations, so that they can apply to the banks and to the SME foundations Also, the government can give the government is getting money from the donors, donor agencies from all over the world. So they can give some funds to the business organizations, and so that they can provide the SME guys the support, know.
Right. Salauddin, let me interject right here. Yes, you're right. You see, now banks go by what is called KYC, know your customer. So if banks do not have some knowledge of who the customers are, how do they guarantee repayment of the loan? So you can hardly blame the banks or the financial institution. So now, in one of my previous segments, I had Mr. Matloob Ahmed, a former president of FVCCI and the chairman of NITOL NILOY, as you know. He suggested that there should be some kind of a government insurance scheme that covers the first risk for the banks. That could be one of the ways. Or Bangladesh Bank can carry some of the risks on behalf of the government. So then some of these smaller entrepreneurs in the SME sector can be helped out. So I think you are pretty much saying the same thing, right, Salauddin? That's what some of these things we need to look at very aggressively. I mean, the government should, right?
Definitely, yes.
Right.
The central bank has the vital role, to support. Right. In other countries, we have seen, recently they are providing incentives as much as they can. They are trying to support their clients. Even they are giving low interest loans to all the affected people.
As we were saying, you rightly pointed out that there is a significant lag, I would say, from funding to disbursement when it comes to SMEs, especially the cottage and small industry people, because banks are not willing to lend to them because, as you know, KYC, know your customer and what have you. So what would be some of your closing remarks on that, Salauddin?
We have huge population in our country, we are going ahead, even we are developing very fast, thanks to our government, our honorable Prime Minister, our business people. But we are forgetting that SME sector, most of the population is dependent on this sector. So we need to, save them. They have been affected a lot during this pandemic. Their family members, they are, now jobless, So our poverty line is increasing day by day because of them. So if we cannot save them, our, entire development will not be, seen to the world. So if we have to save them, we have to, refinance them. We have to, let them reopen their institutions to get the fruit of our development,
Absolutely. Absolutely, Salauddin, very well said. As in many countries, as it is in Bangladesh, the SME sector is the backbone of the economy. So
definitely,
we must do what we need to do to save the SME sector in order for us to hold on to the gains that we have made in the past decades or so in taking Bangladesh forward. It was indeed a great pleasure talking to you about this issue, Salauddin. So, I wish and hope that I can bring you back to many such programs so we can discuss things of vital importance to Bangladesh and its economy. With that, I would like to conclude here. Thank you again, Salauddin, and I would like to thank our audience. Stay safe, stay home if you can. I'll catch you in the next session. Bye-bye.